In this video, I'm gonna walk you through my favorite Chinese martial arts shoes and explain why they work, who they work for, and what they're best for, and how they can actually improve your practice, not just protect your feet. Stick around until the end because my #1 choice just might surprise you. Quick disclaimer before we begin. I'm not sponsored, I'm not paid by any of these brands. This is an honest, unbiased review based on years of real practice. All right, let's get into it. I've been doing these arts for a long time, and so I've worn all kinds of different shoes. And before I was doing martial arts, I was a Western athlete. I played basketball, baseball, track and field. I did all kinds of sports, and my dad was a coach. And so I grew up. If you're gonna play football, you wore football shoes, basketball shoes, etc. Those shoes were necessary to get the most out of your sport. As I got into Chinese martial arts and Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, well, that was a whole different type of practice, right? It wasn't about having a specialized shoe, it was about feeling your whole body do stuff, being able to feel your feet connect to your knees for natural movements as well as more specific technical movements. So as I got into the practice, I started paying a lot of attention to the shoes that I was wearing, and all of my teachers had recommendations. And I could remember really distinctly, after about a year of doing these arts, I felt my shoes differently. The shoes that I was wearing in my day-to-day life felt clunky. They felt like boots, even though they were just sneakers. I had to find other kinds of shoes to wear, more like what you might call barefoot style shoes today. That's a popular, we got some barefoot style shoes on the table today. They're much more common type of shoe, but 25 years ago, if you wanted to be barefoot shoes, your options were flip-flops, right? And so what shoes to wear is probably an important choice and something that all martial artists, all athletes, all people who are active think about. One of my favorite principles and ideas from these arts is all effort must be done to strengthen the feet. And that means we want to be intentionally connecting with how we strengthen our feet. Not only look at how these shoes are gonna help our Tai Chi, help our Kung Fu, but they're gonna make us stronger outside of that practice as well, because that is what we're trying to do with all of our arts. Well, let's talk about shoes. The first shoes I ever wore, believe it or not, wrestling shoes. These shoes right here. It was on the recommendation of my teacher, Sifu John Cheng. He had all of his students get wrestling shoes. Why? Because they had the closest to a barefoot style feel. They let your foot open up if you got the right kind. These nice Asics has been a brand forever, and that's what he recommended back in the day was Asics, because they're very affordable and you can find a lot of different styles. And so they were really comfortable. They gave some ankle protection while getting ankle mobility and just felt great on my feet. I mean, it made a huge difference using these for a while to feel how I could move my body around doing Kung Fu, doing Tai Chi. It really opened my eyes to using my feet, not using my shoes, which is a big part of our practice. They might not be the best choice for Tai Chi or Qigong because they do have a little bit of more closing in at the ankle and they squeeze your ankle a little bit, which is really good feedback, but you might like a little bit more mobility here at the ankle and a little bit more of a wider. These ones don't get in that really big wide toe box that allows your foot to fully widen up unless you find the widest version possible. So you're not gonna get that exact barefoot feel like you're gonna get with other shoes. And also the bottoms of the shoe are specifically done for wrestling. So you can see the bottom has all these really cool little treads on them. So this is definitely more for something like where you're cutting and pivoting and drilling your foot. It's gonna hold up really well under that kind of practice. So for things like Kung Fu, it's gonna be great. Classic, the Chinese cloth slippers. These are a really fun option. They've been around for a long time, okay? You can buy these anywhere. Almost all these shoes are readily available on the internet. These are really interesting to wear because they're cloth. They will open up with the foot and you can spread it nice and wide. Now the bottom, you're gonna find versions of these that have rubber and versions of these that have cloth. And you wanna get the cloth ones, you don't wanna get the rubber ones. And the cloth ones are gonna be pretty wide. They're gonna give you that natural feel. And what's interesting about these ones is you can't wedge. You can't wedge into your stance. If you wedge into your stance, you're gonna feel these slide. They don't have really any grip. They're just cloth at the bottom. And so you have to feel yourself over the top of your foot having whole foot pressure, really feeling that even connection as you interact with this slipper. So this is a really good training option. I always have a pair of these somewhere, and I wear these quite often for my practice when I'm practicing inside. They're not great for practicing outside. If it's wet or rainy or anything, they're gonna get ruined or messed up pretty quickly. Because they are sort of cut into this specific shape, they will give you that barefoot feel, but they're not exactly like a barefoot shoe per se. And unfortunately, you get a lot of variation in sizing with these when you buy them online. Sometimes I've bought 3 or 4 pairs, and one of them might only fit right, and the other ones might be a little bit off. But the nice thing is they're not very expensive. And so they're a good choice to have for training inside, something that gives you a really unique and classical feel. You can imagine how many hundreds, thousands, if not more people have practiced in these shoes throughout the years, right? So this is just one of those choices that it's always nice to have around, always nice to practice, and it's gonna give you a really good feel for your Tai Chi. Another classical choice is these, the Feiyues. Feiyues are one of the most old school, iconic Kung Fu and Tai Chi shoes. You can arguably say that these gave birth to the barefoot shoe movement, because look at how these sort of fold up. I mean, these have been around for decades. All Kung Fu people know about Feiyues for the most part. And you're seeing these nowadays being practiced by movement people, weightlifters, dancers, just people who know the value of a shoe that enhances the foot and allows it to move naturally, which is kind of what these shoes do. They have this nice open toe box so your foot can spread out. The sole wraps up a little bit, and it wraps up a little bit so you can feel your foot contained within the grip, so you can pivot and press off really nicely in Feiyues. There's a reason why these have been around forever and people still keep wearing these things. You can get them in black, you can get them in white, and they're just a really, really good shoe, and they're not expensive. These are also readily available on the internet from martial arts supply stores. I remember we used to go and get these near the Beijing Language and Culture University in China for like $2 or $3 a pair and just stock up. The downside of them is if you're doing pretty intense, let's say Kung Fu training, more pivoting, cutting, grounding your stance like Bagua or Shuai Jiao or Mantis or these kind of arts, you can wear through these pretty quick. You'll wear them down. They weren't meant to necessarily last you 5 years, 6 years. If you're training hard, they'll show up in your shoes. That kind of brings me a little bit to these, which look like Feiyues, but are not Feiyues. These are Warriors. Okay, Warriors are kind of a fun brand. These would be very hard to find. You might be able to find these, might be available these days, but these were available a lot in China actually. And Warrior is a company in China. What they would do is, they would find a popular shoe, perhaps like Feiyue, and then sort of copy it. And then a lot of people would say they would copy it and do it a little bit better. Like the Warrior would be a little bit stronger, last a little bit longer, just a little bit more quality to it. And you can see, here's another pair of Warriors. These look a lot like Asics, don't they? Right? But you can see on the back, Warrior. These were a favorite of my wrestling coach in Beijing because they are a lot sturdier. They still got this sort of barefoot feel, but a lot stronger on the bottom, a really good tread, lasts significantly longer than the Feiyue, just a little bit more robust of a shoe. So if you're doing something like Shuai Jiao and you're not wearing wrestling shoes, which it's also a really good option for Shuai Jiao. But these are also kind of a little bit a part of Kung Fu culture because these aren't as widely known outside of China, but within China, a lot of people did know about this company. It was more in the north. And even my teacher, who loved this company so much, when he heard that the factory was going out of business, he drove to it and bought all of their size 13s because he had a big shoe, he had a big foot. He bought like 10 pairs of size 13s and just put them in his closet, and then came back with like 3 or 4 pairs of shoes for us each too. That's why I got all these pairs of Warriors. That's how much he loved these shoes. That brings me to barefoot shoes. And so let's start with this pair. The Vivo Barefoots, this brand. Vivo Barefoots is a big brand. I got several of their shoes right here. These are a good option for getting into specific barefoot shoes. They have a really great barefoot profile. I mean, they really allow your foot to spread wide. You can move your toes around. You really feel your whole foot with these. The nice thing about Vivo is that they got a lot of different options. So you can see this is an all-weather pair that I'll wear when it's raining or when I'm gonna be on wet grass. It feels really good. This is more of a dress pair. So this is where you can take your barefoot shoes into your everyday life. And these are just some nice casual shoes that you can wear around. And this pair, I think they're called the Census, is based off of like old shoemaking techniques, maybe from someplace in Africa. So there's an intelligence to the design that you can feel in your feet. Really fun to practice in. A women's pair like that my wife wears, of a knit pair. And so like I said, Vivo Barefoot's got a really large catalog of shoes. The actual first pair of barefoot shoes I ever had, besides these Feiyues, were these. It's the brand Limbs. And I was drawn to them because the name Limbs is an acronym. Live, easy, minimal, and simple. The idea that you just want a basic, simple shoe that's gonna enhance the foot shape, protect the foot, but also allow you to feel your foot work while you're doing it. And so Limbs is a smaller company. They have maybe 4 or 5 different styles of shoes, all really, really nice, really well made. These are some of my favorite pairs of shoes to wear around. The reason why is nice wide toe box. They got that barefoot feel, but they also have a really robust sole. And so they have good traction. You feel your foot really well protected when you're out in the environment, or if you're doing something a little bit more strenuous like Kung Fu or Bagua, that kind of stuff. It also comes up and wraps. This isn't actually a heel. This is just wraps up. So it protects the side of your heel and sort of wraps your heel a little bit. And that's really great for feeling yourself ground your heel in your movement. So these Limbs are actually a really, really great option for barefoot shoe. I wear these just as much as I wear my Vivos. Like I said, they don't have as many of the options. They have a boot, they do have some casual shoes, but these are the primals, I believe they're called. And this is a great option for doing Tai Chi, Qigong, or Kung Fu in. Another barefoot shoe that I really like as well, and to be honest, these might be my favorites, which is unfortunate because they don't make them anymore. This is the brand Astral, Astral Footwear. They're a really cool company. They do barefoot shoes and also aquatic flotation devices. They work a lot for people who are in streams doing boating. And so what sets these apart a little bit is the sole. This is such good grip. I mean, you feel it. When they're brand new, you can see how much I've worn these down by training in them so much. These were amazing for Bagua and like Kung Fu because you could feel yourself grab the ground, pivot, and lock into your stances with still having that barefoot feel, so you know when to drill, you know when to move. And so you're getting that communication coming up from the foot all the way up to the hip and the waist really well through these shoes. I have another pair where you can see all the holes from all the pivoting and stuff. So these are Astrals, and this is their version called the Loyak. They have several different pairs of shoes. This is the hemp version, which is great. They no longer make these, but they do have an all-weather and a couple other varieties as well that are really good. I do actually take the insole out of some of my barefoot shoes. And so this is an option. You can see there's no insole in here. This will make it even more barefoot, right? Then you really feel the ground. And so all of these shoes usually will come with some sort of extra insole like that is gonna add just a little bit more of that protection. So you have those options. You have a little bit of options with these barefoot shoes of having them being really barefoot or having a little bit of protection. The other shoe that's up here is these, the last wrestling shoes here. This is a really nice pair of wrestling shoes, the Rudis. Okay, these are top of the line wrestling shoes, really great barefoot feel. If you're into something like Shuai Jiao, which is Chinese wrestling, then this is the kind of shoe that's gonna also really help you feel your movement, get deeper into your practice. And so I like to have these up here as well because they're sort of where I started. And then this is a really nice brand. I wear these when I'm competing or when I'm doing more intense practice. These are the kind of shoes I would wear for that, for Shuai Jiao. All right, top 5 shoes for Kung Fu. Okay, so 5th place, the Chinese cloth slipper. It's in 5th place. Well, it's in the ranking because if you've never tried to do your Kung Fu in one of these Chinese cloth slippers, you really should, right? Whether it's Mantis, Bagua, even some Shuai Jiao basics, you're going to have to work differently. It's gonna challenge you, right? I wouldn't go do a competition in them. I wouldn't go do any of that stuff in them, but it's gonna give you an interesting experience. So that's why it's on here at number 5. Number 4 is the Limbs. They feel really good for Kung Fu. You can train in them. They got that extra little connection on the sides. They're a little bit wide in the front that is good for your movement, but it doesn't give you that same sort of Kung Fu feel, that forward drive, piercing forward drive that you might get from like a wrestling shoe or from your Feiyues. And so because of that rounded front, it does change the way you feel your foot. That's why it's here in 4th place, but it's still a great shoe for Kung Fu. In 3rd place, Warriors. The Warriors are awesome. The only problem with them and why they're in 3rd place and not higher up is they're just hard to find. They're just really hard to find these days. So the odds of being able to find them are tough. And if you do find them, you know, you're gonna wear them out, just like any other Kung Fu shoe. If you ever come across them, pick a pair up and practice them. See how they relate to your other shoes that you like to train in. The 2nd place, Feiyues, right? You really can't beat Feiyues. Now, I know I said that the Warriors are a little stronger than the Feiyues, but to be honest, it's not that big of a difference. These are such great shoes, such classical Kung Fu shoes, good for almost any style you're doing. Bagua, Tai Chi, Xingyi, Mantis, Eagle Claw. You're gonna be able to do it in these shoes just fine, no problem. So the Feiyues, a great choice for your Kung Fu. A lot of people could have seen this one coming, right? The Feiyues are gonna be towards the top of the list. But the #1 shoes for Kung Fu, wrestling shoes, okay? Wrestling shoes are the way to go. If you look back in Kung Fu history, people would oftentimes wear boots. In the North, they wore boots. In the South, they sometimes wore boots. So having a boot was a sort of enhanced footwear that would protect your foot more often. This was normal wear. And so this is actually harkens back also to another classical style of footwear that was used in Kung Fu, whereas this is a low top, this is a high top. Now the only difference being is that this is a high top you can scrunch in and lace it in. It's gonna really squish on your ankles, or you can keep it a little bit looser to give a looser feel at top like a boot. And it's great for your Kung Fu because it has those options. If you're doing something like Shuai Jiao, lace it in tight, get that extra support. If it's something more relaxed like Tai Chi and Qigong, you loosen it up, have it be a more relaxed fit. The rudest shoes that I had mentioned before, while great for, let's say, specific competition, I wouldn't necessarily recommend these for your daily Kung Fu. They're a little specialized for wrestling, and they're also quite pricey, right? So for a daily Kung Fu shoe that you're gonna be getting a lot of wear and tear in, just a normal Asics pair is gonna be a better choice. Personally, I have all of these, obviously. And so it's not like I wake up one day and I think, oh, I'm gonna wear these shoes. I don't wear some of these as much as I used to. I don't wear my Feiyues and my Warriors as much as I used to because I tend to wear the wrestling shoes because I like that extra support in my daily practice. And then I will also wear my limbs or my other Vivo shoes that didn't make the Kung Fu list. And the reason why they didn't make the Kung Fu list is only because of that pivoting and cutting and all those sort of things that are gonna put a lot of extra wear and tear on this really great sole. So for something like Tai Chi, these are great. But I like wearing the limbs and the other barefoot shoes for my Kung Fu so that when I'm stepping out of my Kung Fu and I'm just going about my daily life and I can wear barefoot shoes, I still feel my Kung Fu. I still feel like I'm doing Kung Fu, which is something that's really important to me, is that I can feel like I take my Kung Fu with me out of my practice, not just in my mindset, but also just in how I feel my body. So that way it's always right there.